Welcome to the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, where it is never too early for fantasy football. My name is Jeff.
Alex.
As always, thank you for downloading, listening, liking, and commenting on our podcast videos. Please join our community by subscribing to us on the socials. Our handle on all platforms is at N2E We are also available on all major podcasting apps by searching N2E Alex, what do we have on today's show?
On this episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, we are finishing up our 2024 positional ranks, and we're wrapping up with our top 24 running backs. And this is our 100th recorded episode. So we get to celebrate that a little bit.
This is where we need like a clapping drop. And I see you got the flowers in the background that I sent to celebrate this 100th episode. We're getting our flowers.
Gosh. Yeah, sure. We'll do that.
Hey, don't tell my fiance. She'll be like, "Where's my flowers?"
We'll see if we can add some balloons or special, or just somebody going, yeah.
All right. You want me to get this kicked off here with my number 24 running back?
Yes, Jeff. I want to hear who you have disrespectfully at number 24.
Respectfully. So coming in at number 24 this year is going to be Rhamondre Stevenson from New England. I believe that he is a true 3-down back, and he will not have the same opportunities as some of the higher running backs due to New England may not be very good this year. So that's where I have Rhamondre Stevenson. What's your thoughts there, and who do you have at 24?
I have Rhamondre Stevenson much higher. I love Rhamondre, and I
do too.
I agree he's a 3rd-down back. I think, like you said, what can limit him is the New England offense, but they've given him the keys as the workhorse back, in my opinion. So I think that he should go higher than this, especially in half-point PPR, which is, I believe, what both of our rankings are set on, right? Half-point PPR. All of our positional rankings are all half-point PPR because that's our preferred style of play, and it's the most balanced to give you guys rankings. Yeah. So my number 24 is Najee Harris.
My gosh.
Arthur Smith is in town as offensive coordinator, and he's someone who would not give the full workload to Bijan Robinson, who is a better talent at running back than Najee Harris. He's not attached to either running back specifically. So I actually have Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren as my 24 and 23 running backs. I think there's a small chance that Arthur Smith might prefer Jaylen Warren's versatility more so than Najee Harris. They're both within a point of each other. Maybe I think like a 0.2 or 0.3 off from each other. So I'm perfectly comfortable with them there, and I'm comfortable with either one of them being a low-end running back 2 or a high-end flex option.
Yeah, so before I get into the ludicrous of Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren is my 36th ranked running back. So Harris is a little bit lower because of that, but the Steelers did not become a playoff team last year until they started riding Najee Harris in this offense. So we'll see if that's the case again. But if I didn't see that last year, I kind of would have been along the lines of you, but they went to Harris completely down the stretch last year, and it got him into the playoffs.
I don't know if it's Harris or just not relying on quarterback play at all. It's different quarterbacks, different offensive coordinator. This offensive coordinator likes to use 2 backs, which is one of the reasons why they brought him in.
Yeah. No, and that completely makes sense, but both with Fields and Wilson, whoever wins that starting job is going to need a very good run game and probably a pounder in there too. So we'll see.
I don't think it's going to be one it's going to be both of them. That's why I have them right next to each other.
See, but Warren will not touch the ball more than Harris does because he just doesn't have the body to hold up on that. But I believe we are on my number 23 as well, and that's where I have new Bears starting running back DeAndre Swift. And I know that seems maybe a little bit low, but he finished 23rd last year with the Eagles. And I think this is actually a little bit of a downgrade of overall team talent. So we'll see what he can do here. He also has those durability concerns. So this is kind of where I feel comfortable taking DeAndre Swift. Thoughts on that one?
Let's see, where do I have? I actually have Swift outside my top 24.
What? You have Warren in and Swift out. Wow. And one's going to be a much better offense than the
And
other.
just looking at all alternative sites out there, apparently Fantasy Pros agrees with me for the most part that Jalen Warren is number 26 for them, and Najee Harris number 23. So those guys are relatively close together. They have Swift at 25. So reasonable spots for any of them. I just don't think Swift is going to have the same run appeal with Chicago that he had with the Eagles. With the Eagles, he probably could have been really good, but he just wasn't getting the touchdowns because of the tush push. And I think Swift was relatively good with Detroit. I just don't think he's going to be definitively like a workhorse back. I think he's a rotation guy. And I honestly like the Steelers' offensive line better than the Bears. I think they've been building it for the last 2 years. They've added significant pieces. I think that's starting to come to fruition. I think the Steelers are going to have a heavier run offense than the Bears as well. So I don't really like Swift that much.
Oh. Well, then you're really not going to like my number 22 back, and that's Raheem Mostert for the Miami Dolphins. I believe that he's going to be part of a two-headed running back monster this year. What's your thoughts?
I have Raheem Mostert as my number 27 running back.
Okay, so not
So
that bad.
so he's still outside my top 24, but I don't think that that's a bad spot for him. You're higher on him projection-wise than I am, although I still have him doing fairly well this year. I think Achane becomes the number one guy for them. I think they have a 30-person committee with Achane getting the most, Mostert getting the second most, and then the rookie Jalen Wright getting a little portion and getting eased in as well. So that's just where I see them. I think Mostert is still going to be usable. I don't know if we're going to be able to predict his production at all on a week-to-week basis, but I think he's going to be a flex player for me.
Yeah, and Achan will miss time, and he will not be a 200 to 300 carry guy. So someone's going to have to get him.
It's crazy that I don't have him getting anywhere close to that kind of carries, but he's still way higher. I agree he's going to miss time. I've accounted for him to miss time. He's just hyper productive and explosive. But that's pretty much what I said when we were talking about him as a rookie when we were doing our rookie profiles and rookie ranks. I said I thought that he could get injured, that he could be injury prone because he is a very slender frame, but he's also very explosive. So it's interesting.
Absolutely. So now we're down to your 22 and your 21, but let's start with 22.
You're gonna hate this one too. My number 22 is Josh Jacobs with the Green Bay Packers. I see why people like Josh Jacobs this year because they're assuming that the Green Bay offensive line is better than the Raiders were. They assume he's going to be more efficient, be able to break out a few more yards per carry, a little bit better numbers there. Maybe that's true, but one thing I know about the coach in the scheme there is they absolutely like to do a committee. They do not like to commit to a workhorse. They won't do it. Josh Jacobs, to me, is not an effective runner. I don't think it's just the Raiders' offensive line. I don't think Josh Jacobs is an efficient runner. And I like the young guy there. I like Marshawn Lloyd more. He's going much later in the draft. He's faster, younger. I think he's a better fit for the offense. So to me, I don't like Josh Jacobs that much, but I still think he's startable while he's there.
Wow. Well, not on your team because you're not going to get him in very many leagues. Aaron Jones before last year finished 9th and 12th in rushing for running backs. So I don't see Josh Jacobs doing much worse than that. He's a much younger version, more healthier version of Aaron Jones, in my opinion.
I think Aaron Jones is a better running back, in my opinion, though. He's older, but he's better, in my opinion.
Well, one has a rushing title and one doesn't.
So one had one good statistical year. The other one had multiple years despite being in a committee.
Yeah, and he'll do just fine in the committee now too. Maybe it'll keep him a little bit more fresh to death.
But speaking of Aaron Jones and how I think he's better, that's who I have at number 21, Aaron Jones, who's now with the Minnesota Vikings, that have been looking for their running back one ever since they let Dalvin Cook go. And I think that Minnesota is going to give him a chance to be an actual workhorse back with them, and they're going to lean on him with Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. They're going to lean on the run game more than they have with Kirk Cousins. So I like Aaron Jones a little bit more. I think I'd rather go up against Green Bay's defensive line than Minnesota's defensive line this year.
Yeah, I'm higher on Aaron Jones as well going into this year. I feel like you are putting the veterans a lot lower that have been there, proven it, and not over the hill just yet. So it's interesting that you've put people that have proven it and can end in those spots, like Najee Harris, like Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones, in lower spots, but they've proven that they can be in those higher spots versus the
You
people
don't know
like
who I have.
Warren.
You don't know who I have above him, Jeff?
I do, but there's not that many people, unless it's like Austin Eckler, who has a 2 and a 1. But so
Austin
we can,
Eckler, 2024 number 1 overall running back. No, just kidding.
yeah, no, he didn't make my top 24. He just was just outside of it, but he's an interesting pick. Him and Brian
didn't make
Robinson
mine
are probably
either.
going to be 50-50 mates.
Who do you have
50.
at 21?
So at 21, I have Najee Harris here, which would surprise you a little bit, but that's because Warren is so high at 36 on my rankings, but 21 is where I felt comfortable. Finished 20 last year, 14 the year before, and 4 the year before that. So with better quarterback play, he should get some better run lanes to run in. Thoughts there.
I mean, it's only a few spots higher than when I have him. I
Yeah,
understand
it
why
was
you
the
put him
Warren
there.
that was the shock.
No, you have him on your team, so you want to rate him higher than ADP. I get it, Jeff.
You do understand what I do projections for everybody, and they're unbiased projections based on the last 3 years, and based on the last 3 years is kind of where Harris was spit out at. And I actually ranked him lower. Well, no, I didn't rank anyone higher than him that was projected lower than him, but he's ranked right where he's projected at 21 for me. And then my number 20 is your buddy, James Conner, who may or may not hold on to the job the entire season, but definitely worth grabbing for the first few weeks of the NFL draft or the fantasy draft.
Let's see. That's funny because we have our first agreement. I also have James Conner at number 20 for the same reasons. Some people finally caught on to him being relatively efficient and good and have him higher than this. I think ADP might be around the same spot, but a lot of people have him ranked higher than this. I think there's a significant competition. I know that he could be the starter the entire year. He could break 1,000 yards and rushing yards and get 200 to 300 receiving yards. That's the absolute upside. But he has missed time almost every single season. They did spend significant draft capital on Benson. They also have Michael Carter there as well. I feel good about him being a number 2 or number 3, depending on your roster build. But I absolutely would want Benson if I was relying on Connor, or I'd have a deep running back roster if I had Connor as my number 2. Number 20 it is. I think he's startable. I think he's a RB2 for sure.
Absolutely. And number 19 for you, sir.
Number 19 is Old Trusty, and that is David Montgomery with Detroit.
Oh my God.
I'm pretty sure both Detroit running backs finished relatively high last year, just like the Dolphins ones did. So I think David Montgomery is still usable. I don't think I think things are going to start to shift more towards Gibbs, but David Montgomery, to me, is still going to get a lot of play, still going to be used in the red zone. I like him, and I feel comfortable with him at 19. I wouldn't go much higher than this spot, though.
Yeah, so David Montgomery for me finished 25th, so he would have been my 25th running back. But yeah, he did finish 13th last year, but I do think that they're going to start tipping the scale towards Gibbs here quite a bit this year. And maybe Gibbs and him will play a lot together. Who knows? Because they are going to depend on Jameson Williams a lot, and Jameson Williams hasn't proven to be the guy to be able to be relied on a lot. So we will see there.
I just have a spoiler alert. I'm very high on the Dolphins, or not Dolphins, the Lions this year. Very high on all Lions players, all of them.
My goodness. Well, they didn't improve a lot this off season, and they got outcoached in the postseason last year. So I kind of expect their season to end in a very similar fashion this upcoming year.
Okay.
Right. So my number 19 is Aaron Jones here, and this is where I feel comfortable taking him. He's just under 1,000 yards rushing and just under 400 yards receiving. So should have a very productive year in this Minnesota team. And I believe with Hockenson and Jefferson, he won't face stacked boxes very often at least until Hockenson comes back. And then they also have Addison. So I feel like he might have his best run lanes that he's ever had in his career.
I agree.
We'll see there. And you know that I have their coach. I have him earmarked for coach of the year because I think if he can even put together a relatively productive season with Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy, or JJ McCarthy, I should say, because I don't even know if JJ McCarthy sees the field, that we could possibly see him be the coach of the year then. And then brings me to...
It's very possible. I was just going to say, before you move to the next pick, the only thing that's going to hold Aaron Jones back, in my opinion, is his health. He struggled with injuries the past few years, but if he can start all the games or the majority of the games, I think he'll be a really good pick there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm banking on him in a few leagues, but I don't think it's like a dart throw banking on him. I think he's still got at least one, maybe 2 good years left in him. So number 18 for me is old trusty Delvin Cook's younger brother, James Cook. Just wanted to throw a little curve ball for you there. Throwing in Delvin Cook into this ranking, even though it's James Cook here at number 18 for me. I think Ray Allen will take some snaps from him. I think they're going to rely on Josh Allen a lot more, especially with the receiving weapons the way that they look. And I think
Ray Davis?
Samuel, Shakir, I think everyone will no, I meant running the football with Josh Allen. And
I thought you said Ray Allen.
Yeah, I did. So I started with Ray Allen. I think Ray Allen will take some of these snaps from him. I think they want to do that with, isn't that the backup?
Ray Davis.
Ray Davis. Sorry, combining Josh Allen and Ray Davis. Ray Davis will take the majority of the backup snaps here, taking some snaps away from Cook, I believe. And I think Josh Allen, so Ray Allen, Josh Allen and Ray Davis will take away a lot of running snaps from them. And also, they added Matt Collins, they added Curtis Samuel, they added MVS. So they have a lot of jet sweep wide receivers as well. So this is kind of why I have James Cook here a little bit lower than I know that you're comfortable with. He finished 11th last year. What's your thoughts?
Too low. It's too low, Jeff.
Well, who do you have at 18 then?
I have, and Jeff, I think you hate I think you hate the young players. I think you have a grudge against young players. But anyway, I have at 18. Are you ready for this?
I got one eye open.
It's going to be probably a shocker. I have Cincinnati running back Chase Brown at 18.
He's not even the starter right now. So this is really bold.
I have only heard positive things about Chase Brown. I've heard their offensive line describe him as a superstar. I've heard that he only has been consistent. He only has been good. He's done everything that they've asked. He's everything that they look for in a 3-down back. I have not heard nearly as many positive things about Moss. I think Moss will end up being the backup. He'll get played. He'll get probably maybe 30% of the snaps or more. But Chase Brown is going to be the starter. And I think he's younger, he's more athletic, he's more versatile. I like Chase Brown a lot. I think Chase Brown is going to be a big-time player and a steal in drafts. I think he's going around 10 or 11 in most redrafts. And
you
to get someone who...
4.
What now? You're going to take him in round 4?
I said you can take him in round 4 because I'm not.
He's not going in round 4, Chase Brown. He's going like around 11 or 10.
I would assume your number 18 ranking would have him be a round 4th rounder.
fourth round value that you can take in the 10th round.
We'll see. We'll see here. I think you're buying into the coach speak a little bit too much, and the rest of the population is holding out because.
Yeah. You said before that you don't think Zach Moss is going to be the guy. So that leaves Chase Brown.
Does it? We'll see. We'll see if those are the only two running backs on the roster come the beginning of the season.
So without Mixon there for the Bengals, all that has to get divvied out. I don't think either one of them is going to get all of Mixon's touches, but one of them is going to get more of those touches than the other. And I think Chase Brown's the one who wins the battle.
Yeah, I think it'll be like a 55-45 split, maybe 40-60 split. But I do lean towards Chase Brown, but I don't think that's enough to get him in the top 24 of running backs. But you do. So this is going to be bold. This is a big, bold call. I know you like your bold calls. I like to be right versus bold.
I like to be bold and right at the same time.
There's a reason why they call it being bold, sir. What do you have at 17? Another bold one?
It's probably going to be lower than what you have, but I have Rachaad White at 17.
Oh, you hate him so much.
He's a running back that's not good at running.
I mean, he got a lot of yards for not being good at running.
He got a lot of receiving work. When he actually ran the ball, he wasn't that good. He's very inefficient. They had a reasonably good offensive line. They had a reasonably good passing game. There's no reason for him to not get more yards than what he did. I don't even think he averaged 4 yards per carry.
Yeah, I think yards per carry is an overrated, antiquated stat that it deals with a lot more than just the running back. So it was 3.6 yards per carry, but he had 990 yards.
I think Bucky Irving is going to be a significant threat to him down the stretch because he's got a little bit more juice, and they're very similar running backs in general.
So you're doing a lot of projecting. Like I know you haven't been a White fan for at least a year now.
But for 2 years, he averages 3.7 yards per attempt for the 2 years that he's been in the league. That's not good. He's low touchdown running back as well. He's got more competition this year. I think they're a relatively bad team. They're going to have to be throwing the ball a lot, and he's going to get pass down work, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
He's going to get a lot of it.
I don't know. They have a lot of wide receivers this year. A lot of wide receivers this year.
What's more this year than there was last year?
So they have Mike Evans and Godwin from last year, right? I think Palmer missed time with an injury last year. He's back. And they added McMillan, who they're raving about in camp right now.
You love this coach speak thing, which I don't fall in love with anything that I hear.
I liked McMillan as a prospect. It just was so deep. Like the draft was so deep.
So I attribute like the camp season to like the beginning of a new relationship when you're like wooing another person. You're not going to say anything bad about them. You're going to only highlight all of their positives. So trying to woo a fan base, trying to get some confidence into these players, because I mean that's half the battle is playing with confidence. The other half's like serious skill, but so I foresee it going that way.
I think of it as you have more pieces than last year. You take a little chunk off his production from last year, and he's no longer a top 12 running back. He's a top 17 running back now instead of a top 12. That's how I view it.
We'll see who's right and wrong here, but I have him at 962 yards rushing. What's your rushing stat look like? And 5 rushing touchdowns, and he's still rated much higher than.
Oh, let me go over
than this. But I got him with 78 grabs and 521 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I have him at 900 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns.
Okay, so 62 yards off, and you're actually 1 touchdown higher than me.
I have him at 200 points total.
Those don't come along every day. 200 rushing yard, 200 point running backs. I have them at 231.
Yeah, so I'm 31 points below you.
We're nicking pets here. All right, where are we on the countdown now? Because you threw me off with the White.
You're 17.
All right, so my number 17 is Isaiah Pacheco, running back for the Kansas City. What's your thoughts there?
I have him a smidgen higher than this, but I think that's a reasonable spot.
So then I'm going to follow that up with number 16 is one of your favorites, Kenneth Walker.
I also have Kenneth Walker at 16. The coach speak for this case is they're going to ride Kenneth Walker and they're going to feed Kenneth Walker, and have not heard anything about Charbonnet this offseason. that was with a previous coaching staff that drafted him, just like previous coaching staff. That same previous coaching staff drafted Kenneth Walker, but the new coaching staff likes Kenneth Walker. I feel pretty comfortable with him being there. I don't think he has as much receiving upside as some of the guys we've already talked about.
Right.
But
health will be his biggest concern.
yeah, health will be his biggest concern. I think Charbonnet will get the passing down work. I do think with all the receiving options they have and the way that they'll probably want to continue the vertical offense that this coaching staff had at Washington University, I think that will open things up for Kenneth Walker to have more running lanes. They just signed a really good center in free agency like today. So I think that their offensive line will be better as well. So 16 is a really good spot. I have Isaiah Pacheco at 15, so just 2 spots ahead of you. I think the touchdown upside for him is really good. I think he's more of a like Kenneth Walker, he's more of a rusher than receiving back, but he is predominantly the back to own for Kansas City. So that gives you a little bit of security, and it's going to be a high scoring offense with the best quarterback in the league. So it's nice to be the main running back in that system.
Yeah, and there's no McKinnon, and CEH is hurt, and CEH has just been a mess since they drafted him. So that is, we'll see what happens there. But that's sometimes what happens when you draft a higher round running back, is they don't pan out like CEH. And I know that you feel like Harris hasn't panned out either, considering where you have ranked him. So completely respect both of those because they're very much in my ballpark. But my number 15 running back is Devon Achane, and this is where I feel really comfortable putting him. He did finish last year as RB24, but there is definitely some injury concerns when it comes to Achane.
So to me, that's still pretty low, though.
I mean, he hasn't proven it though. You have people like Jacobs and Jones that have proven that they can last a whole season and finish in the top 12, lower than a guy that has not proven that.
I don't know if I would say that about Jacobs and Jones. I think they've had their injury issues the last couple of years as well.
Yeah,
and they're
but they've
older.
proven that they can make it a whole season and make it into the top 12 of running backs.
Well, Achane's proven he can make it in the top 12 and miss time. Like he's that good.
He finished 24 last year, so he has not
Did he?
proven that he can make it top 12.
I thought he finished in the top like 16-ish or something.
I got him at 24 last year. And you're going to make fun of me for my next one, but my next one, I'm going off of the complete optimistic path for this player. And it is running back for the Cleveland Browns, Nick Chubb. So if Nick Chubb gets downgraded or we start hearing that he's week 1's in jeopardy, I'll start downgrading him. But if he plays the whole season, I have no problem taking him at running back 14 right now.
That is way too high.
Well, again, I'm not going to take him there. If his ADP is the 10th round, like you said, I'm going to take him in the 9th round and get my 14th running back late. Are you still looking up?
I love Nick Chubb, but he's on the wrong side of the age cliff and coming off debilitating injury. So I don't feel good about him. However, if you can get him 9th or 10th round, something like that, or later, it's tremendous upside. So I can see that.
Yeah, I mean so I probably should have him lower right now, maybe even as much as 24. But the fact that he's such a superstar running back in a run-heavy offense that will rely on him 100% when he's back, fully back. And we don't really know, like, on the spectrum of injured to healed that he's at. I wish there was, like, progress bars that we could see of people healing, but those don't exist in the real world. And we'll see if he can make it back for the regular season, for the beginning of the regular season, and then how much time he does miss if he doesn't. So it's going to really impact my feelings on him, but I have a good shot to get Chubb in almost every league that I'm in this year towards double-digit rounds.
You're aiming to get a Chubb in every one of your drafts? That's interesting.
Well, when your rosters look that good.
When it comes to our friend Devon Achane, I want to point out he played in only 11 games last year and had 130 touches total and still finished as the running back 24. That,
Yeah.
to me, is amazing considering Josh Jacobs played in 13 and had 260 touches and finished below him at 27. As the featured back, didn't split time with another significant back. So I just don't buy Josh Jacobs.
Okay. That's fair. If I didn't see the rushing title the year before, I probably wouldn't either. But I did see it. And I can't ignore the fact that he could be the league rushing champion again, especially behind a Packers team that could go 4 wide at any time and completely open up the offense.
Also, Aaron Jones only played 11 games last year, and Aaron Jones had 172 touches and finished running back 37. So, Achane, he may miss time, but for the time he's in, it's going to be huge production.
So can I ask why you believe Achan's body can hold up to more than 130 touches? Because there hasn't been any proof of that yet.
Who said that I have him having more than 130 touches?
Well, then he'll
You don't
finish
even-
RB24, and you're way too high on him.
You don't even know where I have him ranked or what my projections are
Well,
for
is he in
him.
your top 14?
He is in my top 14, Jeff.
So I do
is.
know where you have him ranked.
He is.
But if he only gets 130 touches, then you can pretty much say that he's going to finish RB24 again.
I have him over 130 touches, but I have him lower than all of the other running backs around him in touches. But we'll get to that in a bit. What spot are we at right now?
So we are at your number 14 because we just did my number 14, Nick Chubb.
My number 14 is Ramondre Stevenson. So I have him a full 10 spots above Jeffrey. So I really like him. I think he's going to get usage. And honestly, for me, I think the lowest you can go on him is maybe as low as 18. I think 24 is low. 24 is way too low.
He finished 36 last year and then 40 in 2021. So he has 2 pretty bad years.
How many games did he play last year, Jeff?
That is a great question. You always ask me questions that...
He played 12 games last year.
Yep. And he finished 36.
So part of it
was 5 games, and I don't think those 5 games put him into the top 24.
So I didn't. No, he missed. Yeah, he missed 5 games. I didn't like.
You were thinking there's way more games than there are.
No, I just slipped back to 11 because I'm looking at a list, and Aaron Jones is below him with 11. So I saw 11. I was about to say 6. Bill Belichick didn't use him correctly, and that whole offense was crap last year. It'll be marginally better this year. I think they'll have a better coordinator.
I was gonna say, what about Belichick disciple makes it sound that much better and different?
Well, I think that it's not going to be a committee approach. Honestly, I think that they're gonna let him be the workhorse.
They just paid a Gibson though.
They just paid Ramondre Stevenson starting running back money. Gibson's not getting that much money.
They gave him a 3-year deal.
I think
Gibson's going to be a one and done.
Gibson's a very good backup for Ramondre Stevenson because he's very similarly skilled in every regard that if Stevenson gets hurt, I don't think they'll miss much of a beat with Gibson, but I think Stevenson's the workhorse for him this year.
Yeah, I will say though that a 3-year, $11 million deal for Gibson is not chump change, and I know Stevenson got a higher deal, but that's not chump change. So I don't expect him to be riding the pine that much, and we'll have Gibson coming up in my rankings pretty soon.
3 years, $11 million. It's a lot for us normal people. It's not a lot for a professional football player, in my opinion.
I think it's a lot for a professional running back, especially a journeyman running back.
I think it's a good backup salary, honestly, like a reliable backup salary. I don't think it's starting money. I don't think it's remotely close to starting money for a running back. Definitely not superstar money, but Ramondre's the guy. I'm very sold on him being the guy. I have him outside my RB1 status, so he's not in my top 12. Just because I think his upside is limited by being in that Patriot offense. I think if he was in a different offense, I think he would clearly be an RB1, but I think he's a top tier RB2.
So right now, just so we're clear, Stevenson is the number 13th paid running back in the NFL, and Gibson is the number 26th running back paid in the NFL. So they have two technically with starter money in the NFL because 32 teams.
Yeah, but how many teams out there have starters that are still on a rookie salary that they drafted in the middle or late rounds? I
There's
mean,
probably
Isaiah
a couple.
Pacheco was a seventh round pick? He's probably paid less than those guys, and he's a better running back than Gibson is by far.
Brees Hall's making less. Zach Moss is making less. So
That's what I'm
that
saying.
was
That
some
doesn't
of your
mean
Zach Moss argument. I mean, Zach Moss got paid less to compete to start than Gibson did for the Patriots.
yeah, but maybe they had to overpay Gibson to actually agree to go to the Patriots at all.
That is possible.
Anyway, what spot are we at now? We're looking at
We are
13.
at 13. Lucky
So
number.
number 13, I have Houston's own Joe Mixon.
I don't know if he's from Houston.
He's not, but he plays for the Houston Texans. So, or he might if he ever goes back to practice with that quad.
He's in trouble with that.
I think was pretty on par with his value with Cincinnati last year, and I think he's clearly the only reliable back Houston has right now. He does have a quad issue, and he is getting older, and I don't really fully buy into Houston's run blocking with that offensive line. So I don't know how efficient he's going to be, but he's definitely going to get the workload if he's healthy enough for it.
So, I will save my commentary here for a second. My number 13 running back is Rachaad White, and I keep flip-flopping him back and forth with my number 12 running back, Joe Mixon. So we're in the very same area and ballpark. I'm higher by 4 spots on White than you, but obviously 4 spots isn't that big in a position because it could be a tier approach. Anyone could be ranking tiers, and they could all be in the same tier. But yeah, I feel the same way about Mixon. But I do believe White gets those 32 extra points that you have withheld from him.
If he does, he's just being peppered with the ball behind the line of scrimmage. Like he just will have a bazillion catches behind the line of scrimmage and no additional yardage.
Absolutely. But we agree on Mixon, so there's not really much to say there. And who do you have at number 12?
I have Alvin Kamara with the Saints at number 12. He begins the running back one conversation for me. He's someone that he's not going to have 1,000 rushing yards, in my opinion. He's going to have a little over 800 rushing yards, but he's going to have a bunch of receiving work. They'll be behind a lot, in my opinion, the Saints. So Alvin Kamara was someone who carried my regular season last year. So I'm looking forward to targeting him again this year, and I'm a little bit higher on him than ADP, I think. Jeff, we've talked about Kamara offline a little bit, and I know you're higher on him than 12.
Yeah, he's coming up a lot later here on my path here. I have him at 979 yards rushing. But if you really think about it, that's 60 rushing yards a week. And I have him at 603 receiving yards, which is almost the most of the top 10. There's one running back that has more receiving yards than him. So, and he'll have 9 total touchdowns, which is kind of low, in my opinion. 9. So that's one every other week that you can kind of count on. But there'll be some 2 touchdown games. So we'll see what happens. Great. So we are at your number 11.
Did you do your number 11?
No, that I do the evens first and you do the odds first. Because you're an oddball.
At number 11, and I fluctuated on him a little bit, but I settled into number 11 for new Baltimore running back Derrick Henry. I think Baltimore's a much better offense than where he was coming from with Tennessee. However, he is over 30, I think, now. And he's with one of the best rushing quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, who I think is going to take some rushing carries away from him. I think Kenneth Mitchell will eventually take some late down work from him later in the season. So I don't want to have Henry too high, but I still think he is a very, very good RB1 this year.
Yeah, I like the ranking. He's coming up. He's actually my number 10, but before I get there, my number 11 is Kyron Williams, and I believe that the Rams scale back on him a little bit this year with Blake Corum, and I think they take the want to keep him fresh approach. So I don't believe he finishes in the top 6 like he did last year, but he still finishes in RB1 in my prediction and my projection, and he's my number 11 running back. I'll let you comment on him. And then we're so similar on Henry. I don't really think there's much to say about Henry.
It's really funny because I have Kyron Williams at number 10. So we just have those two flip-flopped. And I concur. He's a little bit younger than Henry, and the Rams offense is going to be pretty good. I agree with you, though, that they're going to scale back from him a little bit.
When we both agree on something, that tells me, like, because we have two running backs in the same area, that tells me that's probably right where they should be going. And
yeah, I agree with that. Kyron Williams, I had higher before that. I think I had him originally at 7, like 3 weeks ago or something, and he's dropped to 10 for me. So I just don't want to drop him
it was
too far.
hard.
Yeah.
I had him really high too. It was just hard to look at. Like, it doesn't feel right. Who is your number 9, sir?
Number 9 is Captain James Cook.
What? That
I
is way too high.
still really like James Cook. The touchdowns are going to be an issue with him, so I don't know if he'll ever get the touchdowns to get higher than this spot, but I think he'll get a ton of receiving work. Most of the time, whenever a team loses a number 1 wide receiver, a lot of the targets get shifted towards the tight end and running back positions, even when they add replacement wide receivers. So I think he's going to get more receiving work than he did last year. I don't know if he'll ever get those touchdowns. They brought in Ray Davis, who will probably take some touchdowns. We thought they were going to scale off Josh Allen when it came to the rushing department, but their team was playing so bad, and when they switched offensive coordinators, he went back to running again. We'll see if they scale back rushing again for Josh Allen. But I think Josh Allen, I think James Cook, I think Kincaid, they're going to be the 3 main focal points. And then I think it's going to be split between Curtis Samuel and Keon Coleman and Shakir for the ancillary stuff, in my opinion.
The 3 amigos.
I think 9 spots higher on James Cook than you are. You had him, what, 18?
Yeah, I'm floored because I have him at 983 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns. And I'm not really understanding where these extra yards and touchdowns are coming from.
I have him at 1,105
Jeez.
rushing yards. I have him at 452 receiving yards. And I have him at
you have him at his absolute ceiling.
I have him at 8 total touchdowns, so 3 of which came from the receiving side.
Yeah, we're at the exact same on touchdowns. He did have 1,100 yards rushing last year, but 2 rushing touchdowns. So
yeah, I gave him 3 more rushing touchdowns. We have the same touchdowns, so
we'll see. As I like to call them, Josh Allen and Ray Davis, Ray Allen, the former basketball player.
Yep.
I feel like they're going to take away touches and yards from him. We'll see. So maybe that'll make him more efficient. I don't see a ton of touchdowns coming his way, at least on the ground game. And that's a little bit sad.
Thought they were going to take that away from him last year, and it didn't happen. So I don't know.
Well, you have to remember last year they brought in Damien Harris, and Damien Harris lasted 3 games before suffering a retirement injury. So I'm not sure last year went exactly how they wanted it to go, but we'll see. James Cook is entering year 4, or is it year 3? I think it might be year 3. Yeah, it's year 3. So he's got this year and 1 more year on his rookie deal. So we'll see if he can make a case to be re-signed after his rookie deal is up. All right, we're going to go to one of my favorites here at number 9 now, and that's Travis Etienne. And I know you're much lower on Etienne than I am, or at least you have been historically. You were very big on the Bigsby train last year and very low on Etienne, so I kind of assumed that train would continue, but the look on your face makes me think otherwise. What do you think about Etienne at 9?
I was lower on him last year than you, but I haven't set him yet, so he's definitely in my top 24.
Your top 24?
He's definitely inside my top 24, and I haven't set him yet, so it's got to be higher. There's a few guys I've already said that I like more talent wise, but usage wise, ETN is definitely going to be one of your RB1s, probably top 10 for most people. I have him a smidgen higher, just a little bit.
Okay. All right. Number 8 is where I have Josh Jacobs. So he is inside of my top 8. And
We are
that's why
so far off on Josh Jacobs.
I
That
know.
is our biggest disparity yet, biggest one
It
yet.
is. It is. And I think Nick Chubb would be one of them and Chase Brown, but
Yeah,
that's neither one of them would be at our top 24. But yeah, Josh Jacobs, I think he's got all the talent in the world. I think he'll get enough of the run on the offense. I have him at 1,141 yards and 10 touchdowns, plus getting some receiving work in the backfield.
yeah. No, I don't. I don't. Let me see if I even have him breaking. Okay, I do have him breaking 900 yards. So 921 yards, 8 touchdowns,
That's low.
rushing touchdowns, 284 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown.
He did 805 yards in 13 games last year behind a really bad team line.
Yeah, I don't
1,600.
mean. I think it's going to be like a 55-45 split between Josh Jacobs and Marshawn Lloyd. I think Marshawn Lloyd's more efficient, and I think both of them will put up um, good stats, in my opinion, but
So for
not.
whoever is listening, we always know Alex is 1 year early on these rookies. So take what he says about Lloyd with a grain of salt.
Well, the Packers under this coaching regime have always done 1-2, 1-2 running back.
Yeah, but they've hardly ever leaned on a rookie.
I'm saying it's a committee. It's always been a committee. It's always been a two running back committee. It's never going to be one that's like super dominant.
Right, but did or did not Aaron Jones have top 12 finishes in this offense? So it doesn't matter if it's a committee or not as long as you're talented enough. And I believe in the talent of Josh Jacobs. He is number 9 and number 12 in the last 3 years, Aaron Jones. Just to save you a little bit of research there.
I don't know, his best year touchdown was 2019,
Mhm.
and
Which I don't have here. I only have 21.
he was only had 1,000 yards, but he had 16 touchdowns.
Only.
And
That's why I got him at 10 touch.
2022, he had 1,100 yards, but he only had 2 touchdowns.
I think he'll have more than 2 touchdowns.
I don't know. I think Aaron Jones is better than Josh Jacobs. I think he'll have a better season than Josh Jacobs. So I have Aaron Jones higher than Josh Jacobs. Aaron Jones 19, I think, is what I had, and Josh Jacobs 21. Let me just make sure that's right.
All I know
No,
is in 2022.
Aaron Jones
In
21,
2022.
Josh Jacobs
So
22.
so 2 years ago, Josh Jacobs finished number 3 and Aaron Jones finished number 9. And I feel like we just threw that whole thing out the window because they had injury-riddled seasons last year.
So 2022, Aaron Jones had how many touches versus Josh Jacobs? Because it's just the carries alone, Josh Jacobs had 100 more carries, which is never going to happen again.
We'll see. We
So
will see. They have very
Josh
similar receiving stats.
Josh Jacobs had nearly 400 touches that year and 2,050 something all-purpose yards. Aaron Jones had 282 touches that year and about 1,500 all-purpose yards. I think Aaron Jones has been more effective and more efficient than Josh Jacobs, and I don't necessarily think it's only the Packers' offensive line or
I thought you
offense.
were talking about Aaron Rodgers versus Derek Carr because that's a huge difference.
We'll see.
Who has Josh Jacobs played that is great at quarterback?
Derek Carr in Las
Great?
Vegas. Derek Carr in Las Vegas was way better than Derek Carr with the Saints.
Okay. I don't think he was ever great, though.
No. I mean, was Aaron Rodgers ever really that great? I mean, he was just given MVPs for no reason, just because. They just handed him out to him.
The most efficient year ever by a quarterback given.
Who cares? Who cares?
So we are down to your number 8 then, since we've battled on Josh Jacobs here for a bit.
Okay. My number 8 is Devon Achane.
Whoa, that is way too high.
And that is, let me see how many touches that I have for him. That is on
Wow.
249 total touches. That
Okay.
is significantly
You
less.
have him doubling his touches.
I have him doubling his touches, but I have him having less touches than anyone else that's in the RB1 territory.
No. Has he ever had 249 touches in college?
Jeff, the next person that has less touches than him, I think, is David Montgomery, who I have way lower than him, who is 19. So
How many
touches do you have Achane getting? Because I think you have him second fiddle. You have him second fiddle touches wise to Mostert.
Yeah, I do. I just looked up his college stats. His most ever was at Texas A&M, and it was his junior year, and he had 196 rushes and 36 catches. So that is what, 122 or 132 or 232. Sorry, math is not easy today. The math's not.
And that's on how many games?
That is on 10 games.
Okay. So
but
that pace is,
that's the aberration right now. His freshman year he had 48 touches. His sophomore year he had 154 touches. So this is the aberration year so far. So he has not done it at the elitist level either just yet. But as far as what you just asked me with Achane and Mostert, I have let's see here. I have Achane at 159 rushes and 41 receptions, so I have him at just 200 touches. And I have Mostert at roughly 246 touches.
Yeah,
Mostert's going to get all the touchdowns.
We have them combined pretty close to the same amount of touches, which is kind of funny. I just have Achane having about 40-ish more touches than you.
So why would you have the less durable guy have the ball more than the more durable guy that can produce about the same?
First of all,
especially if you want to be a playoff team.
Achane just had 1 year in the league. That's not a sign of durability to be injured in one season.
How many times was he injured and how many different injuries?
Why don't you tell me? You have it right in front of you? You remember all of them?
I do not, but I do know that it was 2 separate injuries. And yeah, he missed games with 2 separate injuries in his rookie year. So he's going to have to put on some muscle, which may affect some of his speed.
I will just say this, that Mostert last season was the first year that he ever had over 200 rushes and ever had 1,000 yards rushing. So it's not like Mostert has been a phenomenal running back his entire career.
This is his system. This is what he was bred for.
His 7th year in the league.
He also got an extension and is one of the higher paid running backs in the league.
Sorry, ninth year in the league.
He's 23rd on the highest paid running backs. He got paid this season.
Again, Jeff, that means nothing to me.
Okay. But they got enough of him to pay him.
Teams will draft a mid to late round running back, use him as a starter, or use them as a number 2 in a committee, and when that contract's up, they will let them walk away. Mostert, that contract is not very big, in my opinion. Like, he may be the 23rd on a list.
That contract was up.
But I think that the running back salaries are about to go up.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
More about to get paid, and he'll be probably the 36th next year.
How do you take the number 2 running back last year off the field more? Especially if you have playoff aspirations and you think that Achane is the better of the 2 running backs, and you would want Achane healthy for the postseason.
I think that you want both healthy, and you're going to split time between both of them. But
yeah, it'll be real close to a 50-50 when they're healthy, I think.
Who do you think has more juice and more explosion? It's going to be Achane.
How they do last year. I mean, I know Mostert has the higher touchdown potential, especially when you get into short yardage situations. So last year in carries, Mostert led Achane 209 to 103, and their yards were only 200 yards apart. Mostert had 10 more touchdowns than Achane. I think the touchdowns are going to be the thing that kind of splits them apart a little bit. You would admit that Mostert's going to have better touchdowns, right? Or are you not there?
I think that was kind of an outlier. Just like Jamal Williams had that year where he had a ton of touchdowns. I think this whole season has been an outlier for Raheem Mostert. I can't see him as anything more reliable than a flex. Yes, he can have more upside, but I don't think he'll ever put up the stats that he did last year. I don't think he'll do it again.
I mean, I have Achane higher than him. I just don't see them that far apart, I guess. That's more my thought. I do have Achane with 1,000 yards, 10 rushing touchdowns, and 304 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. So I have him at 13 total touchdowns. And I
think I have
Mostert
both of
pretty
them
close
with
to that,
9
too.
touchdowns. I have 9 each total.
Total? I have both of them with 10 rushing touchdowns each. And then Achane with 3 receiving touchdowns and Mostert with 2 receiving touchdowns. So Achane's with 13 touchdowns and Mostert's with 12. So coming back down a little bit to earth from last year. But yeah, Achane beats him in yards. I'm not arguing that at all. Just there's risk to Achane in my opinion.
Absolutely is.
And in my first 2 rounds, I want to minimize risk as much as possible. And you're basically saying he's a first 2 round player by putting him at number 8.
Yeah,
I want
so.
a player that'll be out there as close to 17 games as possible.
If he makes it to me in the 3rd round, I'm taking Achane for sure.
And you may not be able to start him 5 or 6 weeks, and there goes your playoff hopes.
Hey, I had him and Kamara both last year, in addition to Christian McCaffrey, all on the same team. It was nice. It was nice while it lasted.
Well, aren't you humble bragging over there? All right, so we are on your number 7.
All right,
which I can already guess who it is.
Who is it, Jeff? Who do you think it is?
It's got to be the guy that I just said at number 9. There's no way you have him higher than 7.
At number 7, I have Travis Etienne.
Exactly. I knew it.
So I have him here for his workload and his usage. I still think that they're going to try to bring in another back, whether they make Bigsby a thing year 2 or whether they bring in more to help and carry the load with Travis. I just don't feel like he can hold up with the amount he's been used, but he's still very effective when used, and there's not much else there to compete with him compared to other guys. He doesn't have the athleticism that I feel like Achane or Cook or even Ramondre Stevenson have, but he's in a spot where he's the guy. They're going to use him in short yardage. They're going to use him in the pass game. They're going to use him all around. So I feel okay with him being number 7. Jeff, how do you feel about him being up here? And who do you have?
No, I love it because I'm 2 spots off. I'm just surprised that you're higher on him than I am because of last year. But also, from what I've learned from you, is this is going to be Tank Bigsby's year because you're always a year early. So just keep that in mind, everybody. You heard it here first. Tank Bigsby all around. All right. So my number 7 is Alvin Kamara, and I believe that he is the only running back probably even worth owning on this team right now. And I think right now the number 2 is Jamal Williams. So that kind of tells you how good of a hold that Kamara could have on this job.
I think Jamal Williams is even returning kicks as well, and Kendre Miller seems to be in the doghouse. So it seems like
that might be
Alvin
a wasted
Kamara,
pick.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara firmly has the hold at the running back there. So I think he will start to rise up draft boards, but I like him this year too. Don't know if I'd go all the way up to number 7, but if I can get him in the 4th round and he puts up number 7 stats, I will love it. Freaking low, dude.
Yeah. So the thing with Kamara, the only caveat to his ranking here is we knew that he was unhappy with his contract. He is practicing and stuff right now, but that's just something to keep an eye on as time goes on here. He definitely wanted his contract reworked. I think this is the last guaranteed year.
More of a receiving back than between the tackles running back. So those guys have a little bit better longevity. Honestly, I might be moving Alvin Kamara ahead of Derrick Henry soon. So I don't know if I can get up to number 7, but I certainly would be happy with him as my RB1. And I will probably end up getting him as an RB2, which is even better.
You might as well move him ahead of Achane too. All right, so we're going to head into my top 6 now. Number 6 is Saquon Barkley. I didn't feel great about moving him up any higher than this. I feel really good about my top 5. How do you feel about Saquon Barkley here?
I have Saquon Barkley higher than this. The only concern that I have about him is whether or not he will get touchdowns. So I don't know if the tush push is gone from Philly. I don't know if they will use Barkley in the red zone. And if they do, then I feel more justified with them being higher. But I think 6 is the absolute floor for him because I do think that they plan on using him in a workhorse role. It's just the red zone carries I'm worried about.
Yeah, we will see. We will see. Who do you have at number 6?
So I have at number 6 Jahmyr Gibbs with the Lions. I mean, I really like him. I really like him, but I don't know for certainty that he's going to get enough of the workload to be in the top 5. I think he has an upside, but I don't know. Like, I'm not sure about that. It is not guaranteed that he will. David Montgomery's still there. David Montgomery was used heavily last year. Jahmyr Gibbs is of slender frame, just like Achane is. So I have him at 6. I think that's a safer spot. I might not end up getting him because some people might have him a couple spots higher. That's fine with me. I would be more than happy with Saquon Barkley or Jonathan Taylor, either of those guys, if they end up with me instead.
No, I can definitely see that, and I have Gibbs coming up a slot or 2 higher, so I'll have to stay tuned for that. So, who is your number 5?
Number 5 is Jonathan Taylor.
That's all I got to say about that.
I thought about having him lower with Anthony Richardson there. A lot of these running backs have mobile run style quarterbacks, running quarterbacks, and I don't know how much it's going to take away from the actual running backs, but we'll see. Jonathan Taylor, I don't think there's much competition with him starting there, and he's got Trey Sermon as his backup, so I'm really not that worried.
Is Trey Sermon still something that we talk about on this podcast?
Yes, he's the number
I think
2.
you're low. I think you're low on Jonathan Taylor. I think they're going to scale back Anthony Richardson's running. I think his shoulder injury was very scary last year because he's one more shoulder injury like that away from not being the same player anymore. Those are scary injuries. I do believe that did in Cam Newton's career at the end was that one injury that he had with the Steelers on his shoulder, and he was never the same quarterback after that. Like the threat of passing completely disappeared after that injury. But my number 5 is Jahmyr Gibbs. And so we're in the similar ballpark here. I just really like his opportunity this year. I see the 27-year-old Montgomery taking a back seat. What's different about Gibbs and Achane is I saw Gibbs do it last year longer. And if you remember correctly, they took a long time to get Gibbs installed into this offense completely. And he finished RB10 last year. So he was an RB1 in his rookie year when he wasn't even the guy for the first quarter of the season. So
I just want to say I was right about David Montgomery last year. You didn't think he'd be a top 24 running back.
You were right. What can I say? He was 13.
Thank you. That's all I want, Jeff. I just want you to say that more often.
Gibbs finished 3 slots ahead of him.
I know. A lot of it was late season work too, because they weren't giving Gibbs the goal line work until the end of the year.
It's gonna flip flop here, and Montgomery is just about to hit that running back wall. So we'll see what happens there. He's more of a pounder, so we'll see if it impacts him the same way that it would a normal running back. But my number 4 is Bijan.
What made you break away from the rest of the fantasy community and put Bijan at number 4?
So where I see the rest of the fantasy community putting him is number 3 behind my number 1 and number 2, or actually my number 1 and my number 3. But I just feel like he's still got Tyler Algier there. He's got a new quarterback there. I do think that they're going to use him as a top 4 running back, but I still don't know if he's going to get the close to 80% of touches that I think the other running backs could potentially get.
Well, I have him higher than that, so I'll talk about him in a bit. I have Saquon Barkley at number 4.
That's crazy, not being ever seeing him on this team, and they have a ton of stars that they need to feed. It's crazy.
Well, Swift went to the Eagles last year, and he actually did very well outside of not getting touchdowns.
Okay, RB20. We'll see if Barkley can get the touchdowns. Barkley's not going to care either way because he already got paid.
Barkley wants to be used, so he's going to be good. They paid him significantly. They're going to use him.
Where's that philosophy on Josh Jacobs?
Who got paid more between Barkley and Josh Jacobs?
So I think one got 48 million and one got like 36 million. So
I don't think that they gave Josh Jacobs that enormous of a deal.
we'll see. But I know this year, Josh Jacobs is the higher of the cap hits. You know who has the highest running back cap hit right now? It's Alvin Kamara. They're going to use him. They're going to use him a lot. But Jacobs is number 10 on cap hits. Barkley is actually number 20th on cap hits. That's awesome.
It's a new deal, so it doesn't show the.
Both of them are.
But Josh Jacobs is shorter, right? He's got the 3-year deal.
No,
Or are
Jacobs
they
has
both
the
4-year?
4 and Barkley has the 3. It's interesting that you have them that far apart when their teams were just as eager to get the other under contract.
Yeah, the Green Bay even they even canned their previous running back, who was very good for them, to get Josh Jacobs. I just think that they made a bad decision.
So you ready for this? I got it pulled up. So total cash this year, Christian McCaffrey is number 1 with $16 million. Number 2 is Josh Jacobs with $14.8 million. They are not paying him that much to have a rookie running back overtake him. And Saquon Barkley is number 3 at $13.5 million, a whole $1 million less than Josh Jacobs.
I think that Marshawn Lloyd doesn't take over the position this year, but they're going to do a committee approach.
Okay. We'll see.
I
This
don't
is the
thi-
most they've ever paid a running back. Ever.
And they'll never do it again.
Not with that attitude. Not with that attitude. Who do you have at number 3?
I have Brees Hall at number 3.
Okay. You have Breesy Boy at number 3. He's one of my favorites. You know that. I like him a lot. I tried to acquire him in some dynasty leagues, but he should have a great year. He's also my number 3. So we can kind of talk about that at the same time. And yeah. How do you feel about him being your number?
I mean, he could easily be number 2. I think
Yep.
my number 3 and number 2 I think are in the same tier.
Okay. We'll see where they end up. One has Algier and one has really nothing behind him right now.
No, he has a platoon behind him. They drafted Braylon Allen. They have Israel there. Like
And they keep flip flopping those two back and forth because I don't think they like either one of them. Buyer's remorse, like Trey Sermon was in year 1 in San Fran.
I guess it's, do you buy that Aaron Rodgers is going to be 100% back and be like Aaron Rodgers of old, or do you think he's just going to be old Aaron Rodgers? I don't know.
So what I do buy, and this is the very bare minimum, is I think Aaron Rodgers will perform better than Zach Wilson did last year. That's all I can guarantee you. But I also know that he likes to check down a lot because he did that a lot to Aaron Jones. And I think he's going to do that a lot to Brees Hall. He loves his high completion percentages and no interceptions.
Is that what you're hoping for?
I mean, that is what Aaron Rodgers does. That's how he won the MVP in 2014,
Okay.
was it?
Jeff, we have Brees Hall in the same spot. I think we both have the same outlook.
We do.
This year.
We do. It's just the Bijan of it all, the Bijan mustard of it all. But so my number 2, we'll get kicked off with my number 2, and I can already assume who your number 2 is. But Jonathan Taylor will be my number 2 here, and I just think that he's back 100%, no holdout, got paid. He is going to be the guy here that Anthony Richardson relies on a lot more this season. And I know that you're dreading this a little bit because if this does happen, this probably takes away Pittman's high finish that you believe is going to happen, that no one else seems to believe.
No, I think Pittman's high finish is going to happen no matter what because they have Joe Flacco as the backup. So that just means they'll throw even more with Joe Flacco.
We'll see. So who is your number 2?
I will just say that I like Jonathan Taylor. I don't like him number 2 overall. I like him at the 4 or 5, but I have Bijan Robinson at number 2.
Okay.
He and Brees Hall, to me, are the same category. And you can pick your poison either way. I do agree that they're going to use Algier, but I'm really not that worried. I think Bijan's going to be used as a weapon in the passing attack as well. To me, it's London, Pitts, Mooney at wide receiver, basically. I know Pitts is a tight end, but technically to me he's a wide receiver because I don't think he really does much tight ending.
I didn't know that was a
But
verb.
it is now. I think Bijan is going to be used creatively in the passing downs as well, and that to me beats out Jonathan Taylor, and it beats out Brees Hall just a smidge there because I think Bijan's a little bit better in that regard.
So Bijan Robinson one is like a top 5 back last year in drafts, was it? It was pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
And he underperformed that thanks to Algier, which I will take a victory lap on that one.
You should
But he did finish in the top 10.
send all your thank yous to Arthur Smith.
And then there was that one game, too, that he mysteriously didn't play, which drove everyone nuts. But yeah, I mean, I have him at number 4. We're picking nits at this point. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I might move Taylor down to 4 and Hall and Robinson up to 2 and 3. But I think that those 3 are part of their own category. And I think the guy that's at the top stands alone. The CMC stands alone. I think we both can agree and announce that right now that CMC is our number 1. Obviously, we're keeping an eye out for this calf injury, but he finished as number 1 last year, number 2 in 2022. So he is no stranger to the top and one of the more safe picks in this draft.
All right. Anything else that we want to talk about here?
No, I think that's everything here, and I feel really good about my list. The only one I have question marks on is Nick Chubb, and that's going to be very fluid here over the next 4 weeks. Hopefully, he starts getting some practice work in.
All right. Well, I can't wait to see Chase Brown and Ramondre Stevenson and James Cook and Devon Achane all outperform your projections, and you face that humble pie.
I can't wait till my old boys of Jacobs and Taylor and Jones show you up. The Old Boys Club.
Old Boys Club.
Yep.
All right. Well, that does it for another episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you all for downloading and listening to this episode, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please leave us a comment and share the show. Every little bit helps.
You can find us on all podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy and with our handle at N2E Fantasy on all social media platforms. Please join our community and give us a follow. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember, it's truly never too early for fantasy football. Thank you again.
Bye, everybody.